Join me as we go down the diversity rabbit hole. Yep, I've done a little bit of research on this, and I've got some things that I want to show you that I think you'll be interested in finding out because you're paying for it. So stick with me, folks, and I'll be right back. Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and I came across this thread on Twitter a couple days ago, and woo, you gotta see this one, okay? Now, I'm not gonna go through all the pictures and everything, but I will leave the link to this down below in the description, and you can look at the pictures yourself, because he pretty much says in the, post that he makes here what's going on in the pictures. So, here we go. He starts out and he says, critical race theory is spreading rapidly through the federal government. Last week, a whistleblower sent me a trove of documents about a divisive diversity training at the Treasury Department. What I discovered is deeply disturbing and an affront to equality. Buckle up. So here we go, folks. Yep. The training is called Difficult Conversations About Race and calls on white employees at Treasury, Federal Reserve, FDIC, CFPB, and NCUA to pledge allyship amid the George Floyd tragedy. Okay, is allyship really a word? I don't know. Anyway, the goal is explicit: to convert everyone in the federal government to anti-racism. Now, you have to remember, when you're reading things like this, on the surface, they may be saying one thing, but that's not really what they're saying. So you have to look past that. They don't mean they want everyone to not be racist. What they mean is they want white people not to be racist. So that's where their focus is. And if you go through, again, I'm not going to show you all the pictures because they pretty much go through it, but there you go. And this was on June 24th of this year. Again, your taxpayer dollars are funding this. So that's what they're doing with it. And if you look at this, it says, to begin, the trainers set the ground rules. They claim that virtually all white people contribute to racism and insist that white employees must struggle to own their racism and accept their unconscious bias, white privilege, and white fragility. And it says a lot more things in there. It will tick you off when you read it. So he goes on, he says, next, the trainers recommend white managers create safe spaces for listening sessions where black employees can explain what it means to be black and be seen in their pain. White employees must not fill the silence with their own thoughts and feelings. Yeah, so are you seeing the bias here? Are you seeing it? Which is highly ironic because of what they're supposed to be teaching. They're actually teaching how to be biased and how to be racist against white people. This is what it is. And then it goes on. The trainers insist that whites hold fairly consistent narratives about race that don't support the dismantling of racist institutions. So see, white people bad. Yeah. They claim the expressions, we should be more colorblind, so we shouldn't be more colorblind? Wait a minute. Didn't Martin Luther King say that he wished for the day, he dreamt of the day when his children would be judged by the quality of their character and not by the color of their skin? Oh, I guess we are supposed to look at the color of people's skin, and that's how we're supposed to judge them. Oh, and we've made so much progress from the 60s are in fact racist statements. I mean, serious. So progress is bad. I just don't understand why they see those things as racist statements, because they're not bad. They're good statements that we should look at the quality of people's character, look at who they are inside. The outside is not important. What color it is, it doesn't matter. Ugh. I mean, this could be just as silly as saying everyone with blonde hair is evil, or everyone with dark hair is good. It's like, this is just another excuse for being racist. The only difference is they're racist towards whites. But of course, they say you can't be racist against whites, which never made sense to me. Whenever you judge somebody by the color of their skin, you're being racist. Don't care. That's it. Period. Okay, and then he goes on, he says, employees are then asked to think obsessively about race throughout their daily lives. What is the racial mix of your 10 closest friends? What percentage of the day are you able to be with people of your own race? How much of your day are you speaking about racism? Do you see this? If I told you that you need to spend your entire day thinking about purple elephants, you've got to think about them all the time. You know, when you get up in the morning, you should be thinking purple elephants. When you have lunch, you should be thinking about purple elephants. When you take a nap, you should be thinking about purple elephants. When you go to work, you should be thinking about purple elephants. This is what I'm saying. And if that's the truth, if that's what you're doing, then that's all you're going to be seeing. So if you focus on racism, aren't you going to probably see more racism, even if it doesn't exist? I just think that it's setting things up so people will be more racist by doing something like this. And remember, you're paying for this with your tax dollars. So yeah, you have to look at your closest friends, and if they're not, diverse, then you're a bad person. It's just, it's awful what they're doing here. The trainers tell white employees they must provide unconditional solidarity for people of color. So the people of color can do whatever they want. You can't tell them no. You can't say whatever they do is bad. Whites don't get to decide when someone is being too emotional, too rash, or too mean, and cannot protest if a person of color responds to their oppression in a way they don't like. So if a person of color starts to express their feelings about racism and everything, and they get up, walk over, and punch one of the white people, that's okay, and the white person just has to take it? I mean, that's what it's saying, isn't it? That, the white people can't say anything about them being too mean. We just have to sit and take it. I just don't get this. This is so racist. But it's against whites, so that's okay. What if a white employee disagrees? They will be told that white silence has been one of the most powerful detractors from real progress in social justice, and that whites must sit in the discomfort of their own internalized racism and white supremacy. Oh my goodness. So yeah, again, who's the bad people? Whites. There's no mention in here at all of anyone who is a person of color being racist. But you know what? I've seen a lot of those. I remember when Obama was elected the first time, they had an interview with an older black gentleman, and they asked him why he voted for Obama. He says, because he's black. That's racism, okay? If you vote for someone because of the color of their skin, that's racism. If you don't vote for somebody because you don't like the color of their skin, that's racism. This is what racism is defined as. Now, how long is it going to take them before they start redefining racism? Yeah. Are they going to change that entry in Merriam and Webster? Racism is when white people don't like people of other colors. And all white people are racist. Yeah, we'll see. During the training session, white employees are warned that this is not the place to get their feelings validated. Again, do you see? This is saying that white people, you don't count. You don't matter. We don't care about you. You're evil. So you need to just sit there and shut up and listen to what we're telling you. See, it's so wrong. Now, if you want to have a discussion about race, that's great. If you're going to have an actual discussion. But this is not what this is. This is people being allowed to lecture white people about why they're so bad, because the white people are not allowed to say anything back. And again, he's taking quotes right out of this, the documentation. So you can see it. That's what it is. So who is teaching the course? This man, oh, get this, Howard J. Ross, who has billed the federal government $5 million for diversity trainings over the past 15 years on topics including white supremacy, white privilege, and white fragility. And you'll see there that, guess what? He's a white guy. Yeah. And then this right here is all the listing of the monies that he's gotten. Yeah, $5 million that we've paid to that man came from our taxes. Yeah, that's what our federal government spent money on. Now, that doesn't seem too unusual for the Obama administration, but guess what? It's still going on. And like I said, that one was June 24th. So yeah, still happening. So let's look at this guy a little bit. Here's his bio. And I wanted to point out that in this bio it says, Ross has successfully implemented large-scale organizational culture change efforts in the area of managing diversity and cultural integration in academic institutions. Yeah, schools. Yeah. Professional services corporations, Fortune 500 companies, and retail, healthcare, media, and governmental institutions in 47 of the United States. And I don't know which 3 he has not been in yet. And over 40 countries worldwide. So this is spreading like cancer. I gotta tell you, folks. Well, kind of, sort of. Because let's look at how his book has been faring on Amazon. Here's one of them. Everyday Bias. And by the way, right now, it appears that you can get that audiobook for $0. So you got a free audiobook if you want it. I'm not sure why. Yeah, I'm not sure you really want to read it. But if you're human, you are biased. Well, at least there he acknowledges that people of color can be biased too. But essentially, he's telling mostly white people that they are biased. Now, I noticed that he has not sold too many copies. And how do I know that? Because he only has 38 people who have reviewed it. I mean, usually if the book is a real good seller, you're going to have more than 38. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. And then I looked down at some of the reviews. And, you know, this one only gave him 3 stars, good for beginners. Didn't really add anything to what I already read. And then this one, I like this one. Defining book of our time. Now notice this is a 1-star review here, so this is very sarcastic. Through this easy to read preschool book, I was able to learn about all of my biases and what I can do to mitigate them. Who knew that merely by breathing I was projecting bias and exclusivity in everything I did? So glad this guy set me straight, and now he can set you straight, or by, too. Inclusivity and incivility is the new status quo. Get with the program, Trumpsters. Oh, I had to laugh at that one. So, yeah, I'm thinking, I mean, most of them were positive, but 38 reviews. And this book has been out since, I think it was 2015? Oh, 2016 is when, well, that's when the audio was released. So it's not doing extremely well. In these little niche markets, it's doing better. But still, it's not a bestseller. I can tell you that. And it'll take you about 8 hours to read it. So I'm not wasting 8 hours reading this. But it's unabridged. That's nice. It'll take longer, right? So I wanted to share that with you about him. But I just think it's very interesting when it lists all these different things that he's involved with. And 47 states and 40 countries. So let's go on. Yes. In 2011 alone, Howard Ross billed the General Services Administration $3 million for diversity training and billed NASA $500,000 for power and privilege sexual orientation workshops. This is where our tax dollars are going. Let's be clear, Ross is a taxpayer-funded charlatan. He has packaged racialist pseudoscience and used his privilege, which is so funny because he's white, to secure massive federal diversity and inclusion contracts. In the language of his own discourse, he is monetizing black pain to make personal profit. Slime bucket. Sadly, the diversity hustle hasn't stopped with the Trump administration. Ross has done many federally funded trainings since 2016, teaching the latest academic theories on white supremacy and encouraging federal workers to attend the annual White Privilege Conference. Yeah, can you imagine what it'd be like going there? Oh, that would even scare me to be there. But yeah, it appears Mount Vernon, Iowa is where Cornell College is where they have those. This will not end in the workplace. At the end of the session, the trainers tell employees to talk to your children about race because children become racist around 3 years old. Ultimately, this is only the beginning of a lifelong education about anti-black racism. Yep, right there. So it just boggles your mind that this is what's going on. And this is what our government is paying to have taught to all the government workers out there. To stop this, we must call this out for what it is. Racism masquerading as anti-racism. President Trump should immediately issue an executive order banning federal contracts that teach the toxic principles of critical race theory, race essentialism, and neo-segregationism. And then that's the guy that wrote this, and down here is where he did an article about, but it doesn't say much more than what he put there. So it really has about the same stuff. But while I was on his site, I found this. And I thought this was very interesting. If you haven't seen my Tyranny of the Mask Cult, or whatever I called it, you need to see that video because I talk about a lot of cult tactics that are used. And that's kind of what he's talking about here. Because in Seattle, the city is training white municipal employees to overcome their internalized racial superiority. Last month, and this was written July 9th, so that would have been in June, the City of Seattle's Office of Civil Rights sent an email inviting white city employees to attend a training session on interrupting internalized racial superiority and whiteness, a program designed to help white workers examine their complicity in the system of white supremacy and interrupt racism in ways that are accountable to Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Hoping to learn more, I submitted a public records request for all documentation related to the training. The results are disturbing. At the beginning of the session, the trainers explain that white people have internalized a sense of racial superiority, which has made them unable to access their humanity and caused harm and violence to people of color. So just because you were born white, something you had no control over, you are automatically racist. You are now unable to access your humanity, and you've caused harm and violence to people of color. Okay? That's their starting point. That's their foundational beliefs. And this is what's really sad about it. And if you don't believe that, then you are evil, pretty much. The trainers claim that individualism, perfectionism, intellectualization, and objectivity, intellectualization, in other words, facts and actual evidence, and objectivity are all vestiges of this internalized racial oppression. So you're supposed to set aside your objectivity, you're supposed to set aside your intellect and your individualism to be able to be part of this, because those are all things that, that's part of being white. That's really insulting to people of color, isn't it? I mean, it pretty much says that they're not individuals. They don't believe in perfectionism or doing a good job on something, trying to get it all right. They aren't intellectual and they have no objectivity. I don't get this. And must be abandoned in favor of social justice principles, which by that statement right there, we know that they are opposite of what's being said there. So all of those things are not fitting in with the social justice principles. In conceptual terms, the city frames the discussion around the idea that Black Americans are reducible to the essential quality of blackness and white Americans are reducible to the essential quality of whiteness. Again, very insulting to everyone. That is the new metaphysics of good and evil. Yeah. Once the diversity trainers have established this basic conceptual framework, they encourage white employees to practice self-talk that affirms their complicity in racism and work on undoing their own whiteness. As part of this process, white employees must abandon their white normative behavior and learn to let go of their comfort, physical safety, social status, and relationships with some other white people. Okay, so you've got to give up the idea of being physically safe. You've got to pretty much get rid of everything that's white about you. And see, the problem with this is there's no way to say no to it. If your employer implements something like this, you can't say no. I don't believe that. That's not my opinion. That's not my stance. Oh no, this belief is being pushed on you. Do you want to keep your job? Well, then you got to go through this diversity training. There's just no way around it. I had a principal that tried to push that garbage on us, and it was several years ago, and it wasn't quite this bad, but I'm telling you, it just ticked me off no end. I kind of let my opinion be known. It's important to point out that this interrupting whiteness training is not an anomaly. And then he starts pointing out that this kind of idea, it's been going around for a long time. And you're going to see that in just a minute. Well, along the lines of when he was mentioning all that, I came across this Government Alliance on Race and Equity. And I thought, government? Why does it say government? Well, it's a .org, so it's not a government organization. It kind of implied that it was. When you define it, like it says here, is a national network of government working to achieve racial equity and advance opportunities for all. Now, what I don't understand is why it says that it's a network of government. It's not. It's a network of governments, meaning it's a bunch of local governments that have joined together to implement this type of racial equity and advance opportunities for all except for white people. It needs to say that on there. Well, then it says it's a joint project of the New Race Forward. So, I went to the New Race Forward, and I'll show you that in just a minute, but I wanted to show you a little more on this right here. So, who are they? They are this national, see, and it says the same thing here, is a national network of government, singular. See, it implies that it is like part of the federal government, but it's not at all. Yeah, anyway, it's a joint project, and you can see here, it was founded in 1981, so this has been going around for a while, okay, and you can see some of the stuff about it. Race Forward brings systemic analysis and an innovative approach to complex race issues to help people take effective action toward racial equity. In other words, indoctrination. Well, then they had, the links. I didn't recognize anybody on their staff in this, and I tried to see if I could find any George Soros connections, but I couldn't. So I don't know. That doesn't mean they don't exist. But anyway, here's their advisory group, and you can see some of the organizations they're part of. So yeah, definitely interesting there. But then I found this video that explains what they want to do. What's really interesting about this video is that it mentions Portland and it mentions Minneapolis. Well, technically not Minneapolis. It names St. Paul. But, it talks about them having those organizations up and running there, and they were very strong in those communities. And down here, if you look at this was in 2018. So what we're seeing now, you have to look at it, and I thought it was very interesting that they pointed out those two specific places. Are we seeing something that's been in the works, planning stage since 2018? Is that when these organizations said, we're going to upset the apple cart pretty much, and we're going to try to take over this place? Well, that's just a thought. But I also put this in here, and I just wanted to see what kind of videos. Very interesting videos. Most of them are theirs. And then down here, if you want to actually go through the whole thing, here's an hour-long webinar you can watch. I wouldn't want to spend my time doing that, but it's very interesting. All of these are like, yes, what a great movement, driving equity, building a racial equity team. This is what they do. Yeah, this is what they do. Oh, $300,000 grant to help fund racial equity push. Yeah. So, anyway, I thought I'd show you those, and I'll leave the link down below so you can, see that video if you want to. All right. I hate these things that kind of move like that. It's like really annoying when I have to blow them up. But anyway, here is this race forward that it talked about. And, they have this article about the Government Alliance on Race and Equity. So there it is. And as I was going through, they give you tools here. Oh, yeah. But you know what? It's really not a very kept up site. I mean, it looks good and everything, but when you are, here they have, what is systemic racism? It's an 8-part video series that you can watch. Doesn't that make you really want to watch it? He's so manly looking, isn't he? I'm sorry. Oh, what can I say? I like manly looking men, and that guy's not it. So, you can go through, you can see their research, and racial equity implementation guide for food hubs. I just think that's interesting too. So somewhere along the line, it was talking about this new act that they're trying to get put through Congress. Yeah, it's called the Breathe Act. And essentially, if you were with me on the video where we went through all of CHOP's demands, this is essentially the same thing. It really is. It was, if you go through this, you can see section by section, they want to get rid of incarceration, essentially, and policing. And they just want to do away, I guess, with the criminal justice system. How can you think that's a good thing? I mean, what are you going to do when somebody murders somebody? Oh, that's okay. The knife probably slipped. Or his finger just accidentally hit that trigger and pulled, and just shot a bullet and killed that person. I just can't imagine why you would want to totally get rid of incarceration and policing. It's just, yeah, very interesting. Now, they go through each one of these. It's not a real long document. It's 13 pages, and there's a lot of empty space, but investing in new approaches to community safety, utilizing funding incentives. So, see, they're going to not have police, but they're going to figure out some other way that we're going to keep the community safe. Allocating new money to build healthy, sustainable, and equitable communities for all people. You know what's included in that one. Yeah, the guaranteed income. Yeah, that's what's in that. Holding officials accountable and enhancing self-determination of Black communities. I believe that one has in it where the government will pay if you want to become a candidate. So poor people can become candidates for office too. And I mean, you go through it and it's just kind of crazy. Now, I tried finding the actual text of this. I've not succeeded yet. And I'm pretty sure that Ilhan Omar and AOC are probably behind this, but I checked them and I couldn't find out, I couldn't find any text of it. So this is all that I've seen of this. I've heard about the Breathe Act, but this is what they want. And essentially talks about the Green New Deal. It's all the social justice warrior demands right there. So it's all what the Democrats want. Anyway, if you look down here, it says the Breathe Act is a project of the Movement for Black Lives. And it is a 501c4, not a 3, but a 4. And so I looked that up, and here we have it. The Movement for Black Lives, Black Like We Never Left. Not sure I understand that. If you understand what that means, please tell me down below, because I'm missing it. Anyway, so they have all their typical things, the resources and events that they're having. And of course, you've got who we are. They seek to reach millions, mobilize hundreds of thousands, and organize tens of thousands so that black political power is a force able to influence national and local agendas in the direction of our shared vision for black lives. Now, my suspicion is that the people behind this, their vision for black lives is domination. Okay, it's not being equal. That's not their goal. Their goal is to be superior and to take over the country. Now, I'm not saying blacks themselves. I'm saying these organizations. All right? And the reason I believe that is because I've studied something called Black Liberation Theology. And I really want to do a full video on that one of these days, because I think you'll start to see what the deal is. And Black Liberation Theology is exactly what Jeremiah Wright, the guy that was supposedly the pastor of the church that Obama supposedly went to, and that was something that he followed very much. And Black Liberation Theology is not about blacks becoming equal with whites. It's about them dominating whites and society. So Black Power Rising, they've created a popular strategy rooted in transformative goals that will impact the millions of black people looking for direction and leadership in this moment. So when you click up here on donate, guess where it takes you? Act Blue. Yep, there it is. Now, for those of you who may be new to the channel, I did a video on Act Blue and Win Red and contrasted them. Act Blue, essentially, as far as I can tell, is a central hub that's used to collect donations for any organization that's Democrat. It will not collect for any Republicans. It says that. Yes, it really does. So they have to have Democrat values. And then it has a statement like this that says your dollars will be put to work where they are needed most. Black Lives Matter has the same kind of thing. When you click on the donate button, it takes you to Act Blue. So they all have this statement where they say that they will put it to work where it's needed most. So then the last 2 months, Joe Biden's campaign is now out there crowing that they raised so much money in the last 2 months. Where do you think they got it? People thought they were donating to Black Lives Matter, or maybe this organization. Where was it going? Joe Biden's campaign. Yeah, even though he told them if they don't vote for him, they ain't black. So anyway, but I wanted to share that with you because I think it's very important. And again, these people are claiming that they're trying to get past racism by being racist. Well, they don't claim that part, but that's essentially what they're doing. They are using racism of their own, but they say, oh, we can't be racist, which is always very interesting because, if you're going to judge somebody by the color of their skin, I don't care what color your skin is. If you're looking down your nose at other people that have different color skin, you're racist. Period. So, black people can be racist, white people can be racist, Hispanics can be racist, anybody can be racist. And it's not something you're born with. So, because of the color of your skin. And what really ticks me off is that the color of your skin, it's something you cannot change. It's something you didn't choose. It is part of who you are. So I just really dislike, this kind of stuff. And when they tell you to think about racism all day, why do you think there's more racism now? Because you got people like this indoctrinating our government employees along with schools and other businesses and telling them to think about racism all the time. So, does it surprise you that there's more racism? Anyway, when I showed you this book, for the book being out that long, 38 ratings really is not that much. And I did want to show you this kind of to connect with it. That is, this is from President Trump. He says, "I am the ultimate member of the Book of the Month Club. First, I have low-life dummy John Bolton, a warmongering fool violating the law. He released massive amounts of classified information and an NDA in order to build badly needed credibility and make a few dollars, which will all end up going to the government anyway. Next up is Mary Trump, a seldom seen niece who knows little about me, says untruthful things about my wonderful parents who couldn't stand her and me, and violated her NDA. She also broke the law by giving out my tax returns." How would she get his tax returns? And I'm surprised if she gave out his tax returns, then why aren't the Democrats all like jumping all around and celebrating? "She's a mess. Too many books have been written about me. Some good, some bad, both happily and sadly. There will be more to come." So I just thought that was pretty funny, because I bet if you take all the books that were written about President Trump in the last 4 years, it's probably the majority of the books that are out there that are new. Oh, I mean, it's just every time you turn around, somebody's doing a new book. I mean, Hannity's got one coming out pretty soon. And, you know, all these different people that wrote about different things. Now, I'm not saying it's bad. It's just kind of overkill, because now anybody who worked for the Trump administration and left or got fired, guess what? Gotta have a book deal. Anyway, and then I wanted to show you this. I've just got a few that I'm going to show you real quick here. Mark Dice had this one, and yeah, they were painting over the Black Lives Matter graffiti in front of Trump Tower again today. So they've done it, I think, this is the third time this week. So here they were painting over it, and the police were none too nice to them. But it's so funny that the Black Lives Matter people vandalized a lot of places to write Black Lives Matter. But then when other people come along and they do the same kind of thing and put change it to all lives matter, that's considered vandalism. So the Black Lives Matter stuff is not vandalism, but if you touch it, then you're being a vandal. It's just crazy. We live in a crazy world, folks. I'm not going to play this one for you, because essentially this is what this crazy person says. And I'm just going to call this person a person, because this person gives like a whole list of adjectives to describe themselves, or nouns to describe themselves. I don't even remember them all. So himself, herself, itself, I don't know. But basically they say this protest organizer claims their mission is the abolition of the United States as we know it. Yep, actually said that. So I'll leave that down below. You can listen to it if you want to. And then I'm going to leave this thread below. I think this is a very good thread to read. Not everybody's going to want to read this. Not everybody's going to want to be part of it. But there are a lot of things in here that are really interesting. One of the things that I thought was particularly interesting that I didn't know about was that Ghislaine Maxwell has a submarine license. Oh, where is it? Here. Who was Ghislaine Maxwell? Did you know she owned a submarine company? Why a submarine company? Did you know she has her sub-pilot license? What could she possibly need a submarine pilot license for? So I didn't know that. Okay. I just thought I would point that out. And anyway, a lot of good stuff in that thread. You need to read it. I'll put the link down below. And then, of course, this Sarah Kellen here, who is supposed to be Epstein's lieutenant. Yep, she's next. So they've got her. And I think this is going to be interesting. Her parents fear for her arrest. Yeah, well, you know what? Your daughter was luring women into positions like that. Little young girls. She deserves to be arrested. She does. Okay, and then I'm going to leave you this thread by Tracy Beanz. I think it's a good one. Has to do with the CDC, and there's some interesting things in there that I think you'll want to see if you haven't seen it yet. And then, of course, you probably already saw this, but maybe you haven't. The CDC employees made more than 8,000 federal contributions to PACs and politicians since 2015. Only 5 went to Republican causes. FEC records show. Can you believe that? No wonder Trump took the data recording away from the CDC. They're all Democrats. Oh, it just 8,000 and only 5 went to Republican causes. Oh, I tell you, Obama stacked the deck so much. Good article by the Daily Caller there. And then this one, I don't know if you've heard of this or not, but a reporter asked Orange County, Florida health official if the 2 COVID deaths listed as in their 20s had any underlying conditions. Reply, the first one didn't have any. He died in a motorcycle accident. Yeah. And there's the local thing. Most of what, we get in this kind of stuff is from the local stations. And here's an article on it that goes through. And then after that, down here, it says, there's another tweet. But the fact that the individual didn't die from COVID-19 and died in the crash, but you could actually argue that it could have been the COVID-19 that caused him to crash. I don't know the conclusion of that one. That's the rationale for it. So we don't know. The guy died in a crash, and yet we're going to say it was COVID. So, it doesn't even matter anymore. They're making stuff up. So I hope that having the HHS in charge of the data on this for the COVID deaths, I really hope that's going to just, help things out a little bit and be more accurate. So, this is all fraud, should be investigated criminally. For sure. Yeah. So, makes you wonder what in the world you should believe, doesn't it? Anyway, well, that's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.